The president's peace plan crushed the experts. It's a massive shift. Let's break it down.
Russia's going to be helping. Russia wants to see Ukraine succeed. Once it sounds a little strange, but I was explaining to the president, President Putin was very generous in his feeling toward Ukraine succeeding, including supplying energy, electricity, and other things at very low prices. So a lot of good things came out of that call today. But they were in the works for 2 weeks with Steve and with Jared and Marco and everybody.
Did Russia agree, or did Putin agree to a ceasefire to allow a referendum to take place?
Not a ceasefire, and that's one of the points that we're working on right now. No, not a ceasefire. He feels that, look, they're fighting and to stop, and then if they have to start again, which is a possibility, he doesn't want to be in that position. I understand that position.
This is the moment that's going to define the start of this second term. There was Trump, standing right next to President Zelensky, dropping a bombshell that the talking heads on cable news never saw coming. For years, the narrative has been nothing but endless escalation, a cycle of violence that felt like it had no exit ramp. But then Trump picks up the phone with Vladimir Putin and changes the entire game. He's telling us that the Russian leader actually expressed a sentiment that nobody expected, a desire for Ukraine to be a stable, successful neighbor. Can you believe that? It blows the old administration's foundational assumptions right out of the water. It turns out the way to shut down this conflict wasn't more taxpayer-funded hardware, it was just some old-fashioned, hard-nosed talking. It's the peace through strength doctrine in action. Trump is tearing down the globalist machinery that's been milking this tragedy for political points, while the rest of the world watched the body count rise. This isn't just a change in tone, it's a total dismantling of the old guard's strategy. At the heart of this whole new framework is something that actually matters to people on the ground. Energy. Trump isn't playing games. He's pointing out that Putin has signaled he's ready to keep the lights on in Ukraine with low-cost power. Think about that. After years of the local grid getting hammered and failing, this is the first real sign of hope for the families who just want to stay warm and have a little stability. The experts have treated that region like a private chessboard for decades, using energy to pull strings and keep everyone in line. By putting these offers out in the open, Trump is ripping the mask off the whole conflict. He's not just looking at Russia as a combatant, he's looking at them as a partner in a deal that actually keeps things stable. The critics are going to lose their minds, calling this controversial. But if you care about America first, this is a massive win. It stops the bleeding of our national treasury and lets us finally look at our own problems at home instead of redrawing borders thousands of miles away. It's a strategic pivot to stop the cycle of permanent chaos. Of course, the reaction from the swamp creatures in D.C. was as fast as it was predictable. For years, the military-industrial complex has treated that part of the world like their own personal ATM for influence and profit. Trump's direct line to both leaders is a nightmare for these unelected bureaucrats because it makes their influence evaporate. He didn't wait for a permission slip from the State Department. He went straight to the source and showed what real leadership looks like. He's asking the questions nobody in Washington wants to answer. Why did we dump trillions of dollars into a hole with nothing to show for it? While the establishment wants a stalemate that lasts forever to keep the funding flowing, Trump is eyeing a finish line by early 2026. That's got the warmongers sweating. The public is done with the empty talk. We want an end to this, before things get even more out of hand and drag us into a catastrophe we can't walk back from. Sometimes the hardest thing to do in politics is actually making a strike for peace. Look ahead for a second, because the fallout from this shift is massive. We're talking about a deal that could flip global alliances on their head for the next 30 years. If Ukraine stops being a flashpoint and starts being a bridge between East and West, the whole security setup in Europe changes overnight. This isn't just about stopping one operation, it's a total reboot of how the world works. Trump's got a way of sitting at that table and forcing everyone to respect the United States again, a style that values real results over proper bureaucratic process. While the media obsess over the optics, the real heavy lifting is happening in those private rooms and high-stakes calls. We are watching the beginning of the end for the era of endless intervention. The goal is simple: a stable, prosperous region that doesn't need a blank check from American taxpayers every single month. It's a bold vision, one that needs a steady, authoritative hand to see it through. The world is watching, and the stakes for our national sovereignty couldn't be higher. This is the end of the road for the old guard. Ending.
This report is complete, but the fight is just beginning. Subscribe now to stand with us.